Hey everyone. Writing. It's one of the few things that really upsets students. A lot of students really do not enjoy writing, but today I'm going to show you 7 rules of how to make writing a lot easier to do and to make your writing more effective. When you think about it, human beings have been speaking languages for a lot longer than they've been writing things down. Archaeologists and anthropologists assume that we've been speaking languages for well over 100,000 years, but writing is a relatively recent phenomenon. We've only been doing it for about 6,000 years. And that's why when we're talking about somebody who uses a language, we call them English speakers, Spanish speakers, because speaking is pretty much automatic for most people. At least it's something you know when you learn to do when you're a kid, but you have to learn how to write. So, why do people really dislike writing? I don't want to say they hate writing, but they really don't always go for it. I think there are several reasons. As I mentioned before, writing is not automatic the same way that speaking is automatic. It takes longer to do, and it takes more practice, and because the practice takes longer to do, it feels like there's more effort. And there's also the issue of the permanent error, that once the mistake is on paper, it's there forever. But I'd like you to remember some things. Okay? Writing doesn't get any easier if you don't do it. At some point in time, if you want to learn how to improve your English, you must learn how to write. So, here are the 7 things that I would like to invite you to think about the next time you have to do some writing. The first is to plan, and then prepare for your writing, and then do the writing. Here's what you think about. Ask yourself who you're writing to. Who's the audience for this text? Make a list of the language that you need to do this writing properly. Be sure to write down or to think about the information that you need to provide in the writing. And always remember, the first thing that you create should never be the last thing. It is totally okay to go back and change and edit and rework what it is you're writing. The second thing that you should remember is to avoid boring vocabulary. When you first start learning words in English, you start learning easy things like make, good, person. And then as your English becomes better and more diverse, you start thinking about words that are more specific to specific contexts. If I'm talking about things or processes, I can use words like efficient, valuable, or unique. If I'm talking about employees, I can talk about a competent employee, an inquisitive employee. If I'm talking about pets, I might say obedient or playful. And if I'm talking about good weather, I might want to be more specific and say that I'm talking about sunny weather, clear weather, or temperate weather. Here are the 5 words that you definitely need to avoid. Nice, good, okay, happy, and bad. Those are beginner words. Those are not words that we use when our English is improving. The third rule to remember is that the syntax, the order of words inside an affirmative sentence in English is always the same. If it's a transitive sentence, you use the order subject, verb, object, place, and time. For an intransitive sentence, the subject and the verb are usually not followed by anything, or if you have information after the verb, it can be an adverb or a preposition, or an adverb phrase and a preposition phrase. That's why it's not possible to think of say things like, explain me, I say myself, or I like. You have to think about what comes after the verb. Rule number 5, be specific. This connects into number 2 about the boring language. In English, we have an expression called show, don't tell. And what that means is that it's easier to provide an image of something if the language is very specific to what you're trying to say. If you say he's a bad person, okay, I get the idea. But if you tell me that the guy is an untrusty thief who would sell his mother to make a buck, I know exactly what kind of person you're talking about. Rule number 5 is that should be 5 there. My mistake. Rule number 5, keep like with like. And this is true when you're talking about phrases, when you're talking about sentences, and when you're using conjunctions like and, or but, or. Okay? If I've got a sentence like, I can't live without chocolate and books, I need the noun plus the noun, similar with similar. If I'm offering you something, would you like to go for a swim, verb, or see a movie? Similar with similar. You cannot put a noun phrase and an adjective phrase as a description. We would not say, he is the president and very handsome. Number 6, keep everything together. One sentence is one idea. So if you're trying to give a specific idea about something, don't break it up into a million little pieces. This is especially important if you're doing writing for the TOEFL or the first certificate, because if you try to break the information into smaller sentences in order to expand the number of words that you're going to use, the examiners know that that's what you're trying to do. If I have a sentence like the king died and the queen died, I'm not going to say a real shame after, because those ideas are together. We have to keep it together because it's the same idea. The king died and then the queen died, which was a real shame. The problem is that if I do it the other way around and I just say the king died and the queen died, a real shame, then I have a problem because I don't know if that's talking about the king dying or the queen dying or both. It's very unspecific and it causes confusion. The final rule, okay, check your work, check it again, and then when you're pretty sure that you've gotten everything, check it one more time. Here are the 5 things that you should look for if you are a Spanish student of English. Make sure that your syntax is okay. Again, that's talking about our SVOPT. Make sure that all the pieces are together in the sentence. Number 2, check that you have the S on the third person singular. Decide, decides. Want, wants. Third thing, make sure that the spelling is okay. Number 4, ensure, guarantee that you have all of the ideas that you plan to include in the first step. In the first step, we looked at planning, preparing, and then doing the writing. Make sure that all the information that you planned and prepared to include are actually included in that writing. And finally, make sure that you've got the right information after the verb. We don't want to see any mistakes like I like. I like chocolate. I like studying. I like English. If your verb needs a direct object, make sure that direct object is there and it's as close to the verb as possible. And then, once you're done, check it again, just in case. If you'd like more help, assistance, and training with developing good writing habits or good study skills in English, and you're a Spanish student of English, please feel free to visit the blog at www.stotspanglish.blogspot.ca. And if you'd like more information on classes, you can find out more information at www.stopspanglish.com.